Talks, connecting through community. Hello, today we have an incredibly special guest. Mark Maddaloni is a retired EPA toxicologist, and you actually already know him if you listened to the first episode. He is actually the real quote unquote John, played by Zach Orth. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Great to be here.
I just also want to always start off by thanking you for saving Cooper's life all those years ago.
You embellish, but we did what we thought we needed. We did our job. We did our jobs.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And actually, talking about doing your job, do you want to tell us, as a toxicologist with the EPA, just in regards to lead, what your job was, just sort of how lead became a part of your career?
Bachelor's degree was actually in pharmacy. I continued on with my graduate training, first at St. John's University, where I received a master's degree in toxicology, after which I went to work and got incredible uh, clinical toxicology training at the New York City Poison Control Center. While I was at the Poison Control Center, I became increasingly interested in environmental and occupational type exposures, including lead. And so I then continued my education at this place, Columbia, where I eventually got my doctorate in environmental health sciences. At which point, I then went to work for in 1991 for the Environmental Protection Agency in the New York Regional Office, and really spent a career there. And retired in 2018, and I'm still active in the field, but sort of working part time now, and I don't want the commitment of a full time position any longer.
What was the learning process to become that expert in lead?
A number of things. It wasn't any one, bolt of enlightenment or anything like that, but it was the confluence of a lot of things, and the accumulation of just a lot of the training I received. My dissertation advisor, his name is Joe Graziano, and he was instrumental in developing an oral chelating agent for lead. Part of the treatment, if you had really elevated blood leads, was there was a way to pull it out of the system, if you will, but it was all injectable, and we were being briefed routinely on this because it was so important and stuff. So he had done some groundbreaking work. A lot of people have this vision of lead poisoning as kids eating paint chips, and that still occurs. But a lot of it comes, from a little bit more circumstances. So I became Joe's student. So I was being trained by an international lead expert. So that was helpful.
I know you've also talked about fruits and vegetables like in our own backyard. And there are certain fruits and vegetables that absorb more, that like you may actually be contaminating your family from the soil without even knowing it, thinking that you're growing fresh, tomatoes in your backyard. And then it's like, oh, actually it's filled with lead.
So we wrote a lot of guidance on this. We said, yes, homegrown produce, good. It's you save a few bucks on the grocery bill, or you have a nutritious source of food, but it has to be done carefully, especially in urban environments where there is just a lot of lead from years and years of leaded paint and leaded gasoline. So we were able to write guidance that encouraged home gardening, but put some guardrails on it. Like I said, and we encourage people to have their soil tested. I said, there's going to be always a small amount, but you can live. You can live with that. We know that root vegetables and leafy green vegetables tend to adhere or take up more lead. So whereas luckily for me, because I like tomatoes, like fruiting vegetables take up very little lead. So so often that was part of the guidance was, well, you might want to put a layer of clean mulch in to protect yourself from any soil that might have some lead in it. Again, you would look at maybe changing the crops that you grew. We're able to always try to go to a balancing act. That's so it's just a matter of making some, some informed decisions.
Lead comes from many different sources. Like it's in our soil from gasoline. It's in like our walls before 1978. If in paint, our lead pipes, if they haven't been removed, and also like spices, some foods.
That's becoming a more important source now too. We're recognizing that, especially in immigrant communities.
Exactly, exactly. It is a little bit like a whack-a-mole, but as long as you start getting each one down, like you said, you got the outside, then the exterior. So we want to remove as many sources as possible. And because the child might also get exposed in soil that we don't know is contaminated, we don't know if this spice or this makeup or what have you, so it can actually have, like, a cumulative effect. So if they have a little bit here and there, and then all of a sudden your kid is just, like, constantly having exposure,
It all adds up.
it all adds
It
up.
start at the most local level first. I said it may become a federal, ordeal, but but usually it's best addressed most locally. So I don't know, Shannon, if you had reached out to the New York City Health Department, because I mean they really do have a good lead poison prevention bureau, and they've done some groundbreaking work of their own. And but I mean,
They were in contact with our pediatrician, they weren't in contact with me at that point. And I also want people to understand, like, the reason why the EPA was in our apartment was because of a 9/11 study. We
right.
were there, and again, all of these government programs, like, if we hadn't been a part of the 9/11 study, not only would we not have had access to you, we wouldn't have had that study that, went around and tested our whole apartment for
Right.
contaminants. And
It's a
we
little
also
concerning to think that it was just serendipity.
how do other families have access to the testing and to that's the Lead Paint Right to Know Act is like to test the dwelling and tell us where the lead paint is located. I think knowledge is like a fundamental right. And so that is one of the things that I'd like to see more. The other thing too is like I just also want to bring it back to the fact that because of a strong government program, because of a strong government agency, because of fierce, intelligent, brilliant federal workers, we were able to determine the source of the exposure, and we were able to reverse it. In these, like, this last section that we have you, I'd really just, if you're comfortable with it, talk about really what you're seeing right now with federal employees being demonized. While I understand there's definitely problematic areas of government, there's also an entire faction of, like, in place institutions and employees that are protecting us and really keeping the public safe.
I keep thinking I'm going to wake up from this nightmare, but uh, and uh, the very name of the agency I spent a career at, the Environmental Protection Agency. We're just this agency is just not doing. It's rolling back one environmental regulation after another. One of the biggest offices in EPA is the Office of Research and Development, which is world renowned and recognized for doing the cutting edge environmental. That is gone. He just that whole office has been eliminated, and I don't know what else to say. I'm numb by by what's happened.
Yeah, and I just wanna thank you, Mark, so much for coming on and talking to us about this. I think it's just really important for people to understand, uh, our levels of government, what federal employees actually do, how the government can protect us, how federal employees have and are continuing to do their best to protect the public. And I just wanna thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this. I really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure, and I would just say, if you could just promote the idea that the public needs to, pressure their elected officials. They say, we want environmental protection. This is not acceptable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and actually by coming on, you're doing your part too to spread that word, and I'll do my very best to amplify that.